The social studies tie that we had for the WebQuest was looking at some mapping skills and tracking hurricanes. And when they looked at the path of some of the hurricanes throughout history, they were really, really amazed. And they didn't realize, I don't think, that they formed off the coast of Africa and then come across the ocean and build up speed. But they were kind of amazed to see, oh my goodness, look at all of those from 1851. What they really enjoyed was when we talked about other hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
There was one in 19,
Like the turn of the century
Galveston
ones.
in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, that was
You read about that one.
Mhm.
And just that at that time there was no warning, no preparedness. People had no idea that was coming. So we talked about hurricane hunters being in this eye of the storm, taking that risk to help relay information so that the public is ready, which really I think helped them when it was time to write their scripts.
Well, this was the other thing with the social studies. We didn't do this in social studies, but it did tie in. They had to go through, I don't remember what link it was, but they had to go through and tally how many hurricanes had happened in each decade since 1900.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's like one hurricane up until the 40s, and then all of a sudden it's 2, 4,
Yes.
6, 10, 12, 15.
Oh, really?
Oh, the
And,
graph
and then that's when they made the line graph, and it goes right up. And almost everybody said, well, that's funny, why are there so many more now?
Mhm.
And then a couple kids, when we discussed it, brought up global warming. And I mean,
A
it
lot
could have
of
gone
other
in a lot of
topics.
different directions. We didn't necessarily go in that direction all the way, but it could have
It
gone
was
that way.
it was a good way to have them raise some different questions about why these things were occurring and really analyzing graphing and looking to see why do you think it went up and increased so much. So I really liked this graph. I think that it helped them a lot, and we kind of guided them through that one as well. But it was another part of reading carefully,
Right.
Because initially some of them weren't creating line
Line
graphs.
graphs.
Bar graphs.
Then we were able to talk about when and why line graphs are more appropriate,
Mhm.
when and why bar graphs would be appropriate. So
Right.
that was the task C on the WebQuest, but then I really liked this one because they looked at specific.
Yeah, and
Did
then
you-
that was the one with the slideshow where they looked at the pictures of the destruction.
And it went through a couple years of the most destructive hurricanes in the history of the U.S. And there was some footage, there were some pictures that they were able to see. It told them how much damage it caused,
Mhm.
how many states were affected by it, and they were just shocked at some of those. And for me in class, it gave the opportunity to just talk about hurricanes that I've either experienced or my parents have told me about or grandparents have told me about.
That was really helpful too in getting some of your reluctant readers
Mhm.
excited because destruction.
Yes.
They were all about that.
They love it.
And then, and then they wanted to read, most of your books were about
Yes.
some sort of disaster and
Mhm.
its effects. So I did think that was a good tie-in for you, a good, hook for some of your more reluctant readers.
That really helped. So there was a lot of math involved in the WebQuest, and they had to analyze some of it and do a little bit of ordering and figuring out the range between the greatest cost and the least cost. And I think that they mostly just enjoyed seeing some of these hurricanes and when they occurred.
Right.
And some of them actually went home and talked to their parents. Do you remember this hurricane? Do you remember when this happened? And I think that it gave a lot of opportunity for some discussion.
But they also remembered the part where you showed the picture of that they start in Africa and they move
Mhm.
and then come up. When we got to the part in social studies when we were talking about the building of America
Mhm.
and the triangular trade, which follows that path of hurricanes, they
Making
remember
some
that,
connections.
and they were like, then they couldn't have done all this during hurricane season. So we talked about when would have been most advantageous for them to do that
do
triangular
trading.
trade.
Mhm.
And so they remember that because that was several months after the WebQuest had finished.
I also looked at if there were any other ways that we could tie in this unit with other subject areas. And we sort of went around and asked some of the special area teachers. And the art teacher, Miss Bishop, already had an artist in mind that drew a lot of paintings on natural disasters. So she agreed that in art class they would learn about low pressure and what it does with a hurricane, and then the students could create their own renditions of what that might look like. So I think that we had a couple examples last year.
This was the Thomas Hart Benton.
Thomas Hart Benton was the artist, and some of the students were able to share some of their renditions, and they really did a nice job with the storm surge. Another way just to really get that background information and the low pressure and the damaging winds that can occur, and it was pretty evident in some of their artwork. So really enjoyed that she was willing to be a part of our unit and contribute in the art class.
And it just was another way for the kids to tie in, in all the subjects, what they were learning, and just to see, how much we valued as a staff what they were studying in science, math, and reading.
And how it's all interconnected, like
Everything.
it's not just separate. Okay, I'm going to read a story about a hurricane or a natural disaster, and then okay, I'm going to do some math problems that relate about it, and then in science we'll do this, the science behind it, and how it happens and why it's on the news. But we made it such a big deal that it was all connected. That
It just made it more
working.
authentic.
Yeah, we were working it with each other, and everybody knew.
Our team works well together to begin with, but we really came together to collaborate on how to make this as successful as possible, and that just made it more for the students, and they took away a lot from it.